In 1883, a senior member of the British royal family boarded a train out of England in secret.
No announcement, no farewell.
The Duke and Duchess of Teck travelled across Europe under false names, Count and Countess of Hohenstein, hiding from the people they owed money to. Their daughter May was 16 years old. She spent the next 2 years in rented Florentine villas while her parents dodged creditors. That same girl died in 1953 as Queen Mary, consort of King George V, owner of more than 300 pieces of jewellery, 20 tiaras, 98 brooches, 46 necklaces, one of the most concentrated private jewellery collections ever assembled by a single royal. The story of how that happened, a Frankfurt lottery ticket, a dead brother's will, a mistress who needed to be paid off, and decades of iron-willed collecting, is one of the strangest and most compelling in royal history. Welcome to Jewellery Pleasure. This channel is where we dig into the real stories behind the most extraordinary royal jewels in the world. If you want to follow along with these stories, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss one. Your likes and comments mean everything. They're what keeps this channel going. The family that fled. Francis, Duke of Teck, was not supposed to have a title at all. Born in 1837 in what is now Croatia, his mother was a Hungarian noblewoman whose rank was considered too low for an equal marriage with the House of Württemberg. That made the union morganatic, which meant Francis inherited nothing, no succession rights, no estates, no income. His mother died when he was 4. His father remarried and largely ignored him. He built a military career and cut a dashing figure in Viennese society. The Habsburg court called him Der Schöne Ulan, the handsome cavalry officer. Württemberg eventually granted him the title Prince of Teck, then Duke, as a diplomatic convenience. He was broke, but he looked the part. His bride was Princess Mary Adelaide of Cambridge, first cousin to Queen Victoria, younger daughter of the Duke of Cambridge, and, by her early 30s, considered essentially unmarriageable. The press called her Fat Mary. Lord Clarendon had written in 1860 that no German prince will venture on so vast an undertaking. The Prince and Princess of Wales saw Francis at the Austrian court, decided he was exactly the right kind of penniless handsome duke, and arranged an introduction. They were engaged within a month. They married on the 12th of June, 1866. They had 4 children, no income beyond Mary Adelaide's parliamentary annuity of £5,000 a year, and absolutely no ability to live within it. Mary Adelaide loved fashion, lavish entertaining, and charity work. She gave at least 20% of the annual income to good causes before the household had paid its own bills. By the early 1880s they had burned through a £50,000 loan from the philanthropist Baroness Burdickcoutts and owed enormous sums to tradesmen all over London. Then they ran. The Italian exile lasted 2 years. May, the future Queen Mary, was a teenager watching her parents travel under false identities, watching her father fume at the indignity of the title he'd spent 20 years escaping. She found refuge in Florence's churches and museums. She developed an almost professional eye for beautiful objects. And she filed away, somewhere, the lesson that what her family actually owned was worth protecting at all costs. The Cambridge emeralds, a lottery win, a mistress, and a recovered fortune. The jewels the Tecks actually possessed were not German at all. Francis brought nothing material into the marriage. What the family had came from the British Cambridge side, from May's mother, her grandmother, and her aunts. And the most extraordinary piece of provenance started with a lottery ticket. In 1818, Princess Augusta of Hesse-Kassel married Prince Adolphus, Duke of Cambridge, and settled with him in Hanover. On a visit to her native Hesse, she bought tickets in a Frankfurt state charity lottery. She won. The prize was a small box containing approximately 30 to 40 cabochon emeralds of various sizes, stones that some historians believe may have originated with Indian royalty. Augusta had them set into a 5-pendant necklace and drop earrings. They became known simply as the Cambridge Emeralds. They passed to Mary Adelaide on Augusta's death in 1889. When Mary Adelaide died suddenly in 1897, they did not go to her famous daughter, the Duchess of York. They went to her bachelor third son, Prince Francis of Teck, known in the family as Frank, a gambler who'd already been shipped off to India to avoid his English creditors. By 1910, Frank was in a long-running affair with Ellen, Countess of Kilmorey, the wife of the Earl of Kilmorey. Frank died suddenly in October 1910, following minor surgery, aged 40. His will, only unsealed within the past few years, revealed that he had left the Cambridge Emeralds to his married mistress. Queen Mary had been on the throne for less than a year. She was planning the Delhi Durbar, and her late brother had just tried to give the most important family heirloom to his lover. Lawyers were called. An emissary was sent to Lady Kilmorey. A financial settlement was made. The emeralds came back. Frank's will was sealed for over a century. The royal household had decided, very firmly, that this particular story did not need to be told. Once Mary had them back, she moved fast. For the 1911 Delhi Durbar, the ceremony at which George V was proclaimed Emperor of India, she commissioned Gerard to build what became the Delhi Durbar Parure, a tiara, necklace, stomacher, earrings, and later a bracelet, all set with Cambridge emeralds. The tiara rose 8 centimeters, built in gold and platinum with lyres and S-scrolls linked by diamond festoons, 10 of the pear-shaped emeralds across the top. The necklace carried 9 more, plus, added in 1912, the 8.8-carat Marquise-cut Cullinan 7 diamond as a detachable pendant. In 1912, Mary had the top row of emeralds removed from the tiara. She had other plans for them. The Delhi Durbar tiara passed eventually to Queen Camilla. The necklace and remaining pieces stay in the royal collection. The Vladimir Tiara, Romanov desperation, Cambridge inheritance. After the Russian Revolution of 1917, impoverished Romanov exiles were selling whatever they had managed to get out of Russia. Mary was paying attention. The Grand Duchess Vladimir Tiara had been made by the jeweller's Bolin in 1874 as a wedding gift from Grand Duke Vladimir to his wife, Grand Duchess Maria Pavlovna, one of the most formidable women at the Russian imperial court. The tiara is built from 15 interlocked circles of diamonds, each one hung with a pear-shaped pearl drop. It looks like frozen lace. When the revolution came, Maria Pavlovna was in Kislovodsk. The tiara was still in Vladimir Palace in Petrograd. She asked a British contact, Albert Stopford, an art dealer and, according to some accounts, an intelligence agent, to retrieve it. Stopford travelled to Petrograd and, with help from Maria Pavlovna's eldest son Grand Duke Boris, who let him in through a side entrance, made his way into the palace, located the Strongbarks, and smuggled the jewels out of Russia. Maria Pavlovna died in 1920. Her daughter, Grand Duchess Elena Vladimirovna, by then Princess Nicholas of Greece, needed money. In 1921 she sold the Vladimir Tiara, along with a diamond Riviere, to Queen Mary for £28,000. Then Mary had Gerard adapt it. The 15 pearl drops could now be swapped for 15 of the Cambridge emeralds she'd taken back from Lady Kilmore's estate. A Romanov heirloom and a Cambridge lottery prize, fused into a single piece. The tiara is now one of the most recognizable in the royal collection. Queen Elizabeth II wore it frequently, alternating the pearls and emeralds depending on the occasion. At her last state banquet before her death, she wore it with the emerald drops. It was one of her favorites. The Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, and the face on every coin. When Princess May married the Duke of York on the 6th of July, 1893, the gifts arrived in staggering quantity. Her parents were still recovering financially. The wedding changed everything. One of those gifts became the most reproduced tiara in history. Lady Eva Greville, later one of May's ladies-in-waiting, organized a subscription drive. Women across Britain donated. The committee raised over £5,000, enough to commission a tiara from E. Wolf and Company for Gerard and still have £3,000 left over, which they gave to the widows and children of 350 sailors lost when HMS Victoria sank in a training accident in June 1893, just weeks before the wedding. Gerard's ledger entry from the 26th of June, 1893 describes it as a diamond band and scroll pattern tiara surmounted by fine drop pearls. It was designed to transform, convertible into a necklace, with a detachable bandeau base. 14 large pear-shaped pearls sat on diamond spikes around the top. Mary wore it for years. Then in 1914 she had Gerard remove the pearls, repurposing them for the lover's knot tiara, and replaced them with 13 diamond brilliants. In 1947 she gave the tiara to her granddaughter Princess Elizabeth as a wedding gift. Elizabeth II wore it more than any other. Her image in it appeared on British banknotes and coins for decades. She called it Granny's tiara. The bandeau had been displayed separately since 1947. She had it reunited with the tiara in 1969. It now belongs to Queen Camilla, who wore it publicly for the first time in October 2023. A tiara paid for by public subscription, funded partly by disaster relief, built from a young bride's gift, reworked twice, and now on its fourth queen. The women who organized that fundraiser in 1893 could not possibly have imagined where it would end up. The Teck turquoise parure, A mother's wedding gift. Not every piece in Mary's collection came from courts or fire sales. One of the most personal was a wedding gift from her own parents. The Teck turquoise parure had its origins around 1850, when Mary Adelaide received a tiara as a gift, turquoise stones and diamonds in a central sunburst surrounded by rococo scrolls. She also received 3 turquoise brooches on her confirmation in December 1850. Over the years, the parure grew, a long necklace of 26 turquoise and diamond oval clusters, matching earrings and ring, 2 bow brooches, a tasseled corsage brooch, a bangle bracelet, and 2 4-row turquoise bead bracelets. Her parents gave the complete set to May on her 1893 wedding day. Mary wore it for years. In August 1912, she called in E. Wolfe and Company to lower the tiara's central peak. She found the original height too high, giving it a more Kokoschnik-like silhouette. In 1935, Mary passed the entire parure to her new daughter-in-law, Lady Alice Montague Douglas Scott, on her marriage to Prince Henry, Duke of Gloucester. Princess Alice wore it for half a century. In the late 1970s, she handed it to her daughter-in-law Bridget, the present Duchess of Gloucester, who still brings it out for state banquets. A parure that began as confirmation brooches for a teenager in 1850 is still being worn at official occasions 175 years later. The Cambridge Sapphire Parure. Inherited, given away, sold. The Cambridge Sapphire Parure was originally made in the mid-19th century for Princess Augusta, Duchess of Cambridge, Mary's grandmother. It was a substantial ensemble, 7 graduated openwork foliate panels in silver and gold, each set with 2 cushion-cut sapphires surrounded by halos of cushion-cut diamonds. Tiara, necklace, stomacher divisible into 3 brooches, 2 bracelets, 2 brooches, and earrings. When Augusta married Friedrich Wilhelm, hereditary Grand Duke of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, in 1843, the Duchess of Cambridge gave her the parure as a wedding gift. It went to Germany. Mary spent years, in letters, in visits, making sure those pieces would come back to Britain rather than pass permanently to a German collateral line. She had written weekly to her adored Aunt Augusta for decades, routing letters via the Crown Princess of Sweden even during the First World War when direct correspondence with Germany was impossible. When Grand Duchess Augusta died in December 1916, aged 94, the last surviving grandchild of George III, the sapphires finally came to Mary. She wore them. Then in 1934, on the marriage of her son Prince George, Duke of Kent, to Princess Marina of Greece, she passed the parure to the new Duchess of Kent as a wedding gift. Marina wore the suite for decades. After the death of Princess Marina, Duchess of Kent, in 1968, the magnificent Cambridge Sapphire Parure passed to her son, Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. But it was his wife, Catherine, Duchess of Kent, who became the last true mistress of the sapphires. In the 1970s, the Duchess of Kent brought the jewels back into royal life. She wore them at state banquets, diplomatic receptions, and official portraits. The most famous images were taken in 1975 by Norman Parkinson. The towering sapphire tiara, deep blue stones surrounded by diamonds, and the quiet elegance of a fading aristocratic age. But behind the brilliance, financial troubles were growing. Unlike the main royal line, the Kents did not possess vast private wealth. And so began a quiet farewell to the family inheritance. First, The great original tiara was sold. Then the necklace was dismantled, with parts transformed into a smaller tiara. The bracelets became a choker. Little by little, the grand parure created for the Duchess of Cambridge in the 19th century lost its original form. By the late 1980s, the sapphires made their final appearances at royal events. Soon afterward, most of the jewels disappeared quietly into private collections and London jewellery houses, like fragments of a vanished royal world. And so the sapphires that Queen Mary had spent years bringing back from Germany to Britain survived only one more generation in royal hands before fading into history once again. The Cambridge Lovers' Knot Tiara, a replica that outlasted the original. The original Cambridge Lovers' Knot Tiara had been a wedding gift to Princess Augusta, Duchess of Cambridge, from her parents in 1818. She wore it at Queen Victoria's coronation in 1838. When Augusta's daughter married the Grand Duke of Mecklenburg-Strelitz in 1843, she gave her this tiara too. It went to Germany. Later, during the post-World War I upheavals, the family sold it, reportedly in Paris. It surfaced at a Christie's Geneva sale in May 1981, where an anonymous buyer acquired it for 280,000 Swiss francs. Where it is now, nobody publicly knows. But in 1913, before it was lost, Mary had already understood she couldn't get it back. So she did what she often did when faced with an obstacle: she found another way around it. She commissioned Gerard, with E. Wolfe and Company doing the actual work, to build a replica. They used what she had, diamonds and pearls from the Ladies of England tiara, which was dismantled for the purpose. The upright pearls that had sat on top of the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara were repurposed here. Additional diamonds and pearls came from her own collection. The finished tiara has 19 diamond arches with 19 pearl drops between them. Mary originally had 19 upright pearls across the top as well. She later had them removed for a sleeker profile. Gerard's 1913 archive entries recording the commission still exist. Mary wore it constantly for 40 years. Elizabeth II inherited it in 1953. Then loaned it to Diana, Princess of Wales, around the time of her 1981 marriage, though Diana chose to wear her own family's Spencer tiara on the wedding day itself. After her divorce in 1996, the tiara went back to the royal vaults. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has worn it regularly since December 2015. So, the original is lost somewhere in a private collection. The copy became arguably more famous than the original ever was, worn by three of the most photographed women of the 20th and 21st centuries. The Collector: How Mary Rebuilt the Treasury. Mary called collecting "my one great hobby." Over her lifetime, she added more than 2,000 objects to the royal collection: paintings, miniatures, gold boxes, silver, books, and anything she could trace back to a previous British monarch. She built relationships with auction houses, dealers, librarians, and private collectors across Europe. She knew her periods. She was also feared. Hostesses were said to hide their best pieces before her visits. She had a habit of standing in front of something she wanted, remarking repeatedly how lovely it would look in one of her own homes, and applying social pressure until the host felt obliged to present it to her. She wrote letters to anyone she suspected of owning a former royal possession, demanding its return, as if ownership were a matter of provenance, not purchase. The historian Carolyn Harris has argued this reputation is somewhat unfair. Mary didn't steal, she pressured. She genuinely believed objects with royal history belonged under royal stewardship, and applied that belief with considerable force. That's a distinction worth making. It doesn't make her guests feel any better about their missing cabinets. She was equally relentless with remodeling. Pieces were constantly broken up and reset. Sir Hugh Roberts traced one single Gerard collar made for Mary in March 1901 back through a previous collar, which had itself been built from stones taken from 7 12-pointed diamond stars, a pair of star earrings, and a floral spray, all original gifts from her grandmother and aunt on her 18th birthday. She kept the gemstones and rearranged them until they were unrecognizable. When Queen Alexandra died in 1925 without a will, it fell to Mary to redistribute the jewels. She moved quickly. Several important pieces, including elements that became the fringe tiara, found their way into the central collection. By the time she died in 1953, what had been scattered, Cambridge pieces in Germany, Romanov pieces in Greek exile, Cambridge emeralds in a mistress's hands, was consolidated. She left Elizabeth II a collection that was coherent, documented, and unmistakably royal. The Teck paradox: paupers fleeing creditors, yet emeralds and sapphires in the jewel box, makes sense once you follow the provenance. The Teck jewels were Cambridge wealth, not German wealth, drifted outward over 3 generations of princesses marrying into German houses. Francis of Teck brought nothing material into his marriage. The bankruptcy came precisely because the family couldn't or wouldn't sell what they had: jewels with royal provenance and unspoken restrictions on resale. What May took away from those 2 years in Florence wasn't resentment toward her parents. She came home with something more useful: an obsessive precision about what her family owned, where it came from, and what it would take to hold on to it. She became a queen who understood better than almost anyone what had nearly been lost, what she'd been given, and what it would take to keep it together. The girl who spent her teens in exile, traveling under a false name, died having built the most methodically curated royal jewelry collection of the 20th century. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, the mistresses, the lottery tickets, the Romanov refugees, the duplicate tiaras, I'd love to know in the comments. And if you haven't yet subscribed, this is the place for exactly these kinds of stories.